What is going on, everybody? And in this video, we are giving you a state of the market and stock picks for February 4th, 2022. Now, tomorrow is Friday. A lot of people will probably more than likely not be swinging over the weekend, considering the circumstances that we are currently in with Ukraine and Russia. Now, being said, it's still an ongoing battle. There's been 2 meetings already to try to essentially alleviate the current situation, but the discussions obviously are not panning out. I do believe there's another meeting again tomorrow. Again, if a ceasefire comes at any point, I think the market could get red hot and start running from that point. But something to keep in mind is that considering what's going on with Russia and Ukraine, inflation concerns have been more and more of a worry for the Senate. The Senate was addressing that today in day 2 with Powell. And considering that Powell needs to start taking a more hawkish approach to rate raises. Now, this is from what he keeps saying, that they are going to start taking action in March, doing the 25 basis points in March. But he keeps alluding to the fact that they can, after a meeting or multiple meetings, that they can raise it essentially at however pace that they want to at that point. But for now, he's still only looking at 25. For now, he is essentially looking to gauge on how much the data that he has is actually being affected. Now, it'd be interesting to see what comes of the March meeting. The March 16th meeting is just around the corner. But being said, the market in the beginning of the year essentially tried to price in 50 basis points from that point. We were the Fed futures were obviously hitting well past that. I think at one point we were hitting almost at 100-point basis just about a week or two ago. And being said, we've essentially tried to price a good chunk of that in. We try to price some worst case scenarios, I think around the 50 basis point. And again, that news that we had the other day with Powell essentially saying that he's only doing 25 points caused the market to pop quite a bit yesterday. We had this nice green candle up. Now, as you can see on the daily, it looks like we broke and we're retesting. Now, we have to see if that's true tomorrow. Do we get a rally tomorrow? We need some good catalyst. The catalyst we have is not good enough because we have essentially this wall here at the 4,400 mark that we just can't seem to break. Every time we've attempted twice so far to try to come close to it, obviously getting closer here. But it's really going to depend on what happens. Again, every overnight session, we could possibly gap up or gap down at this point. There's can be new information that comes out about what's going on, and then this thing could just start dying off again. So as far as going into tomorrow, I think just the state in general is going to be up in the air until stuff with Russia and Ukraine comes to a standstill, comes to a closure. It could go on for a very long time. I think that's kind of what Powell's alluding to as well. Like, we don't know how much. Yes, it's the initial sanctions and stuff will hurt everybody as a whole in some aspects. But we'll see those. We'll see the butterfly effect of those. We'll start going into the next couple of earnings. But right now, the market doesn't really care so much about that. That's why you're seeing some pops because it's about the right now. What's going on right now? Do we have a clear picture of where we're headed? We could run for a couple of weeks, and then we'll start dialing back because we know that there'll be supply constraints going into the earnings, and where that essentially leads to. So ultimately, the state of the market, I think, is very much in shambles. Obviously, you can see the market is very undecided in every little thing, and we've had tons of wicks. So it's best, a good piece of advice is to always know that you don't have to be, if you're trading intraday, you don't have to trade every day. You don't have to swing every day, especially in a market like this. You don't know, one piece of news could lead to the next, and then the market could tank or the market could pop. And, majority of the time, you're just not going to know. Technicals have not been working. It's being up to date on current events, I think, is always been something big, especially if you're doing any kind of stock market analysis, because you need to know what is up and coming. So, but nonetheless, tomorrow is Friday. We did have a bit of a run last Friday, I do believe. Last Friday, we did have a bit of a run towards the end of the day, but we've been stuck in that same zone since last Friday. So, again, I think we need a good solid catalyst to push us up. I don't see anything on the horizon aside from the fact that we're having still a 25-point basis move. A lot of people are going to be out there on the media talking about it, but it's not going to matter. It's kind of just looking at what voice really matters, which is Powell's, and what is going on specifically in Russia and Ukraine, more specifically in their talks as of right now. Is there going to be a ceasefire? Is something else going to come of it? Right, there's a lot of different things that possibilities there. So, but this the regular everyday battling that's going on isn't going to affect the market. It will later on down the road when it comes to supply, but ultimately understand right now it's not that big of a deal. The market can still push up from this point. I think the market is waiting on one of the two, either a ceasefire or it's waiting on what is going on with the rates. We heard it again yesterday. Again, we'll have to see when it comes on the 16th if that's all it is. If that's all it is, then I think we could run a bit. But again, I think you're going to be dealing all year with this. We're going to start raising rates as quick as possible. Right, he doesn't want to accelerate it too fast, but we have to see how that goes. So ultimately, again, the market is in shambles and will continue to chop. I think ultimately, if it's a 50-point basis move, we have that priced in, I think, at this point. So that's why every time the Fed futures hit around that 50 point, we kind of just start chopping, because I think we're around this point of where it is. If it goes lower than that, then we can start popping up. That kind of gives us a little bit of motivation to start pushing up. But it all just depends on what is going on with those two things, essentially the Fed and what's going on in Russia right now. I've got a firm grasp on the markets, but primarily it's the rate raises and how that's going to affect the markets. But again, once all that stuff comes out, once that stuff is actually solid, the market can just start moving up from that. It knows what has been given, and then it can move from that point. So that's kind of what we're waiting for at this point. Again, there's not been any horrible news on Russia, so we've had some spikes down, but nothing too crazy. So the market, again, we want that 4,400 break. If we do break for SPY, we really have to break SPX. We really have to break that 4,300 mark. And then that would leave us back down to the 4,100 mark. So we have to see what happens there. Bitcoin itself, Bitcoin has a bit of a pullback. Understandably, these, like I've talked about all the time, you got to have some sort of a pullback. You can't go straight up. If the stock or crypto, whatever the case is, if it goes parabolic, you don't want it to continue to go parabolic. You want it retesting old resistances, which are now new support. You don't want it just blowing through everything, because it's going to come down twice as fast as it went up. So Bitcoin, again, still looking good. We see if we start breaking up. I feel like it's going to start getting more momentum here going into the weekend. But we have to see. Again, the Senate's also been talking about crypto a lot too, and how it needs regulations, which is fine. But they're correlating it with Russia, and they kind of try to almost give everybody a bad taste about crypto. So that may not be the best for crypto, but we have to see ultimately what happens there. Now, as far as tomorrow, again, it is Friday. I don't want to give too many stock picks. I mean, right now it's kind of really depending on what the market's going on. but for me, it's always going to be Tesla. It's always going to be UPST. It's always going to be the chips. But for Tesla, what we really need to do is break this 840 mark. If we can break that, we have some support essentially around that 800, that psychological level. Then we got the 750, and then we got down by the 716, which is a strong support, which I think we can revisit one more time. Though on the daily, this is one thing I'm kind of cautious to see if it's actually going to break, because we did break the wedge, the descending wedge here. Now, this is normally a huge move out of here, so I don't know if everything does set up nicely. This could be the test we're looking for, and then we might actually start running up from this point. So again, a lot of stuff with everything that's going on, a lot of stuff kind of has to align with this. Again, technicals haven't been playing out like they should, because technically this is a perfect entry right here. And then we'd run up and try to at least span most of this previous move, probably at least this like 75% of this move. So you'd probably be looking like around the 1100 mark. Typically, if Tesla starts going, but there's just too much going on right now in the market for it to just follow strictly technicals. That's what's good to be more than just a technical trader, because we've seen over the past couple months that news in itself and events can massively drive what happens in the market, and technicals will not play out at all. So Tesla, again, always a good one. UPST, always a good one. But it looks like we got a bull flag going into tomorrow. This could be a really good setup. Again, you want it to break above this wedge. So you're essentially kind of looking at that 154 mark. If we can break above that, we can get a nice parabolic move. We're going to need some gas, though, because we need to break that 164 mark. If we can break that, we can really get some gas going to the upside. A lot of these look like they could potentially go to the upside very quickly. And I think that's what it's going to take. Is it's going to be one small piece of news, whether it's a ceasefire or specifically maybe something delayed in rates or something like that. It could start really pushing this the market up, or the Fed just being coming out and just being more dovish than hawkish. So I wanted to watch that one tomorrow. Chips are always a really good one to watch as well. LRCX is holding this 544 mark really well. I want to see if we can actually break out of this wedge. I thought we were going to break this wedge and pop. We did a little bit today, but this bigger wedge here on the daily, I think we might rattle around here and actually break out of this. I'm kind of watching this tomorrow to see if we do break above that. Again, it's going to take a lot. We might actually see where we end up. Maybe if we gap up over this, it'd be perfect. Wait for the retest and then take off from that point. But we're going to have to see on that particular one. Airbnb is another really good one I like for tomorrow. Potentially, as long as you can hold the essentially 150 mark tomorrow, I think we can try to go back and revisit some of these, some of this breakout. Again, we lost momentum today. There was some bad news. There's been bad news about Russia and everything, and inflation, and so it sinks there. Everything that tries to get a pop or get some momentum, it starts sinking again. So you definitely want to make sure it's holding support, and always make sure you have a plan to exit. If this does break here, you don't want to be holding it all the way down as it continues to ride down, because you may ride it all the way down to 136. I mean, if you are investing, that's a different story. But if you're trying to swing or something like that, you definitely want to keep a tight stop, especially in a market like this, and take profits when you can. But I'm going to go ahead and cut it off here. Like I said, there's not a lot I want to go into tomorrow. I think it's important to kind of watch and see what the market does overnight. Just look at those couple ones. Again, something else might come up in the morning. But Avago is actually another one that could be a really good one tomorrow. It had earnings and did really well. We just have to see if you can hold essentially above that 586 mark tomorrow. It could be potentially really good. It's bull flagging right now, so we really want to see how this plays out overnight. We got a zone here essentially around that 607. So if we can hold up in here tomorrow, and we can get candlestick right above the 612 mark, an hourly candle opens above that, so we can get a nice little pop. in Avago tomorrow as well. But again, really just depends on the market sentiment in the morning. Overnight sessions have been changing a lot, so you can't just come up with a sentiment right now. This is the information we have now. That's why I have my state of the markets are kind of long right now. They're normally not that long, but there's just a lot of different pieces moving around, so you have to be mindful of that. So if you made it this far, go ahead and drop a like button. Until next time, I'll see you guys later.